Hello, welcome to more yoga with me, Emily. Thank you so much for joining me today. Um, yeah, I don't really have much to say. Hope you're doing well. I thought today we would get into the spine a little bit. So, moving the spine in all the different ways that it moves, which is really a sort of the essential part of yoga, right? Is to limber up the spine so that you can sit for meditation for however long you need to do that or want to do that for. We're not going to meditate, or at least not for a super long time, but we will release the spine. So lateral flexion and extension, forward or sagittal flexion and extension, rotation, um, and then like all of them combined. Right, the spine moves in some pretty incredible ways, and yeah, I think that's enough of that. As always, if you have blocks, they can be handy. I'm going to sit up on my chip foam block just for the starting bit. Just helps release through the hips. If you never sit up on something, maybe give it a shot. Just see, right? Just because you can sit without any props doesn't mean that it is the best feeling on your body. Okay, anyway, you can be cross-legged, you could be up on your shins, you could have your legs outstretched, you could just take a really easy cross-legged position, right? It should feel easy. In fact, that is the name of this pose, easy pose or sweet pose, Sukhasana. So for a few breaths, inhale through your nose and exhale, sigh your breath away. Couple more. And then continue breathing however you need to, whether it's in and out through your nose or your mouth. You might gently flicker your eyelids closed if they're not already. Otherwise, just a single point of focus for your eyes on the floor or the wall in front of you can help you keep your mind still. And then notice, are you leaning forward? Are you leaning back? Are you rounding through your spine? And then maybe readjust your position. And with every inhale, imagine your spine lengthening from your tailbone all the way up to the crown of your head. And with each exhale, feel a gentle softening of the front body. Inhale to find length through your spine. And exhale to soften. A few more breaths, just like this. And last few breaths here. And if you're sitting with your legs crossed and you want to change the crossing of your legs, feel free to do so. And then maybe even keeping your eyes closed as you inhale, lift your heart up to the sky, little squeeze of the shoulder blades toward each other. And exhale, round through the spine, pull through the shoulder blades. Inhale to rock forward and lift up. Exhale to rock back on the sit bones and round. So a few more of these seated cat and cow undulations on your own time, on your own breath. Those of you from the Kundalini lineage or background might be making these into a little bit sharper and fierier breath. Otherwise, stay sinuous or like almost like your spine is moving like seaweed in the waves here. And then on your inhale, come back to center. On your exhale, start to twist. And then inhale and exhale. So you could have your fists quite firm here. They might even be pressing into each other, whether the palms face down or toward you, or you might have space. And you could be going fast or slow, whatever feels best here for you. Last couple twists here. All right, pause back in center. Whew, I felt a little bit dizzy after that. Inhale here. As you exhale, start to draw circles with your torso, down and forward. Inhale back up and exhale down. So the movement's getting a little bit more into the hips now as well. If it feels weird sitting up on something, you could remove it out from underneath you and keep these rotations going. And on your next exhale, switch directions. And then on your next inhale, pause back in the center, shake out the legs a little bit, or switch the crossing of your legs if you wish. My legs were getting a little bit tired of being in that same position, so I'm just going to take it to a more of like an elementary school style legs crossing rather than like the yoga style. Okay, inhale your arms up high. As you exhale, start to twist to the right. So the left hand comes forward, right hand comes behind you, and you might even press those right fingertips into the floor. So to find more length through the spine here, more lift, so that we're not rounding through the spine while we're twisting. Make sure that left hip bone isn't sneaking forward, so drop it back in line. With every inhale, feel your spine lengthening a little bit more. With every exhale, maybe you deepen the twist. Last breath here. And on your inhale, return to center. You don't do the arms. You can if you like to. Exhale, twist to the left. So now the right hand comes forward and the left hand comes behind you. Again, you might press your left fingertips into the floor behind you to find more lift. And as you exhale, deepen the twist, but wrap that right hip back in line. Your last breath here. Awesome. Inhale, come back to center, shake it out a little bit, and then bring your right arm up to the sky, left fingers out to the floor beside you. Inhale here. Exhale, side bend to the left. So lateral flexion and extension. You might start to press your left fingers or palm of the hand away from you to really puff up into the ribs on the right side of the body. Make sure that bottom shoulder isn't sneaking up though. So wrap it down your back. And then maybe think of spiraling the upper right ribs open to the sky a little bit more. So really getting a big, big opening through the right side of the body. Gaze can go wherever. Last breath here. And then inhale, come back up. Whew, felt all creaky and clacky on that one. Super normal. Raise the left arm high this time. Inhale here. Exhale over to the right. So again, ease into it. Make sure that bottom shoulder is staying draped down the back. You might press the right fingertips away from you to really round through the left side of the body now. And think of spiraling the upper left ribs open to the sky. Couple breaths here. All right, inhale, come back to center. Whew, shake out your arms and then make your way to hands and knees. So get any props you want nearby, handy. You could always kneel up on something, pat it if you want to give your knees a little bit of a break, or double up your mat. But eventually, let's set up with knees underneath hips. Toes can be tucked or untucked behind you, and then hands outer shoulder width apart or wider. So you can see my middle and ring finger, pinky fingers are all off the edge of my mat, just to give my shoulders lots of space here. And then as you inhale, start to lift the tailbone. Allow the movement to ripple all the way up to the crown of the head. So coming into cow. And then again, starting with the tailbone, exhale, start to tuck it under and round through the spine into cat. Inhale to dip the belly into cow. Exhale, round the spine into cat. So a few more of these undulations. And again, maybe start to channel that idea of seaweed in the waves so that the spine ends up moving almost less like a single unit and more like beads on a string. Half the time you're going to be a cow who wants to be a cat, and the other half of the time you're going to be a cat that wants to be a cow. And if there's any other natural movement here that would feel good, please feel free to add on a little wag of the tail from side to side, or bigger rolls through the body, chest or shoulders. And then come back to center. All right, cross your right hand in front of the left. And it doesn't have to go all the way over to the left. It's more just in line with your left hand. It might be quite close, or it might be further forward. Tuck your toes, and then as you exhale, shift your hips back. So now we're getting that lateral flexion extension as well a little bit here. You could stay up on your hands or palms or whatever, or come down onto forearms. Maybe wag your tail a little bit from side to side, either deepening or releasing the lateral flexion and extension. But the idea is that you're feeling, hopefully, something on the right side, maybe even one long line from the right fingers all the way up the arm and down the spine to the sit bone. And then inhale, come back to center, a little wiggle or shake to release. And then we'll switch sides. So left hand comes in front of the right, as close or as far forward as feels good here. Tuck your toes, exhale, shift your hips back. Again, you might stay up high and you might come down to a forearm. And maybe you do that little wiggle of the tail from side to side. Hopefully now feeling something on the left side of the body. And then inhale, come back to center. Little wiggle, shake out, or cat and cow. I'm going to turn to face you. You stay where you are if you'd like to. And then have something handy if you'd like a little bit of cushioning or a little lift from the floor. Plant your left palm into the earth, and then inhale, pick the right arm out to the side. Maybe you lift it all the way up to the sky. And as you exhale, start to thread it underneath the left. So now we're getting spinal rotation. Don't get too comfy here though. Press back into that left hand. Inhale, lift all the way back up and open. And exhale, thread. One more. All right, this time settle towards the earth. Now, your right forearm could be really close to your left wrist. That sort of deepens the twist on the shoulders. Or you might take it further back towards the hips, sending the rotation a little bit further down the back. So from here, bring the back of the shoulder or the side of the head to the floor. And again, this is a really great place to bring something underneath your head for a little bit more cushioning. And then play around with the left hand if you wish. You might drape it behind your low back or bring the heel of the hand into the crease of the right wrist to get more traction here. You might walk the fingertips up to the top edge of the mat or over to the right. Couple more breaths in this variation of twisted child's pose. And then bring your left palm back to the floor. Press into it. Inhale. back, up, and then shake it out. A little wiggle or sway. And then plant your right palm. Little draw of belly button to spine. Inhale the left arm out to the side. Maybe open it up to the sky. Exhale, thread underneath the right. Press back into that right palm. Inhale all the way out or up. And exhale, thread. One last time. And then settle a little bit closer to the floor. This time again, your arm might be quite close to that right wrist, or it could be further back, going wherever you need to go. And then bring the back of the shoulder, side of the head, whatever can reach the floor to the floor to give you more stability. And then play around with what you like to do with that right arm, wherever it needs to go. And your variation might look totally different on this side to the first side. It might feel totally different from this side to the first side. So go wherever you need to go. Last breath here. Plant your right palm again on the earth. Inhale, unwind. Oh, shake it out a little bit, a little wiggle, cat and cow. And then take your knees wide and start to send your hips back toward your heels. So toes touching, our big toes touching, can give a little bit more space for the hips here rather than having them, the shins parallel. In fact, that can be quite challenging on the knees. And then start to bow forward. Your arms might be extended, or you might bend the elbows and sort of wrap your chicken wings around your knees, or maybe you wrap your arms around behind you, or even bring the palms to prayer behind the nape of the neck. So in child's pose, depending on how far to the floor you are, you might be getting some spinal extension. Whereas if you're rounded over tops of your thighs, maybe you're getting spinal flexion. Last breath here. All right. Slowly bring your palms back underneath your shoulders. Press yourself back up. Hands and knees. Little wiggle or shake. And then step forward to the top edge of your mat. Excuse me, into your standing forward fold. You might have blocks to bring underneath your hands, or you might rest your elbows on your knees or thighs. You could clasp opposite elbows with hands, particularly since we're getting into the spine a little bit more today rather than the hamstrings. Maybe you join me with arms clasped. You could sway a little bit from side to side, or you could be still. And I'd like you to make sure that your knees are bent, maybe even a little bit more bent than they normally would be here. Just so we're really releasing through the spine, particularly through the lumbar spine, so the low back. Make sure the knees aren't caving in though. Can you send them out toward the baby toe edges of your feet just a little bit more? And last breath here. All right, release your hands and with fingertips to shins or blocks or the earth. Inhale, a little partway lift, belly button to spine, back of the neck stays long. Exhale, let it all go. 2 more. You can sigh or flutter your lips. And then knees bent, head heavy, arms heavy. Slowly start to roll up to standing. 1 vertebra at a time, as slow as you need to go, until eventually you come all the way up to standing. Couple loops of your shoulders, up, back, and down. Little wiggle, noodle, shake out, release, whatever you need to do. All right, now bring your feet to hip width apart, parallel-ish. What does hip width apart mean? It just means where your leg naturally hangs from your pelvis. For some people, it's going to be narrower. For some people, it's going to be wider. And generally, I find when I say hip width apart, people take a little bit too wide of a stance, but you know, wherever feels good for you, basically, where you feel supported. And on your inhale, sit into your chair pose. So hips down and back, tailbone down slightly to feel your belly button engaged toward your spine, and knees out, right, rather than caving in. And then bring your arms to cactus. So already we're going to open, right? You're extending, or even hyperextending through the spine a little bit here. Right, inhale here. As you exhale, tuck the tailbone under, round through the spine. Really wrap those arms around an imaginary friend. Give them a big bear hug. And then inhale, lift back up to cactus, and exhale round. So it's like cat and cow, right? Spinal flexion extension, but we're keeping chair pose. Activating the glutes and the quads and the hamstrings. All those muscles are responsible for generating tension in the lumbar spine. Last breath here. All right, come on, stand back up. What do I mean by that? Well, glutes that don't fire, and then hamstrings and hip flexors that are too tight, right? Can really make the low back feel tight. Anyway, shake it out. I don't know, am I nerding out a little bit too much on the anatomy today? Apologies if this is just like, you don't care. Feet hip width apart. Let's inhale into chair pose again. So second round, hips down and back, belly button to spine, arms to cactus. Inhale here. This time as you exhale, reach over to the right, send the hips to the left, and inhale back to center. Exhale, opposite direction. Once more each side. And then start to bring those two movements together. So you get the lateral flexion, the forward flexion and extension, right? Move wherever you need to move so that you can get into your spine and the tightnesses that may or may not be there. And then on your next inhale, come all the way up. Shake it out a little bit. Bring your hands to your hips. I'll do some gentle hip circles. Whew, I'm strangely out of breath today. I'm recording at a different time than I normally would be, so maybe that's all it is. All right. Feet hip width apart again. Hug the legs toward each other. Squeeze the bum. Belly button to spine. Bring your palms to your sacrum. Fingertips down. And then wrap your elbows, your shoulder blades toward each other. Little buoyancy in the knees. This might be enough for you if you'd like to take it into more of a heart opener. Then press the hips forward. I say heart opener, that's a sneaky way of saying back bend. Maybe you start to tilt back a little bit more. Some of you might slide your knuckles down your thighs or your hamstrings. Keep breathing here. Keep squeezing your bum. All right, inhale, come back up. Shake it out a little bit. And then inhale, sweep up to the sky. Exhale, melt to the earth, forward fold. Fingertips to shins. Inhale, little partway lift. Exhale, fold. And bend your knees. Plant your hands. So knees bend enough that the palms can come flat. And then step back to hands and knees. Now, depending where you are on your mat, you might need to walk your knees back or shift your hands forward, but then shift your weight forward into your hands so that we come into plank pose, either from your knees or from your toes. Squeeze your bum, squeeze the tops of the thighs, draw the lower ribs to the sky, press the floor away a little bit more with your hands. One more breath here. And then exhale, come all the way down to the earth. Little wiggle of the hips from side to side. Untuck your toes. Press the tops of the feet into the floor, so much so you feel your kneecaps lift away. Send your tailbone to the back wall. Feel the belly button engage toward your spine. Squeeze the bum. Shoulder blades on the back. Inhale, lift the heart forward and up. Baby cobra. Exhale, lower back down. So we're going to do quite a few rounds of this. Inhaling to lift and exhaling to lower. You can play with it. Maybe you let the hands hover or bring your fingers off the edge of the mat. Maybe you press up higher. Maybe you feel like you're trying to drag yourself forward by pulling the palms back. But a few more rounds. Inhale to lift, exhale to lower. And on your next exhale, come all the way down, one cheek to the floor. Deep belly breaths to release through the lower back. And then roll over onto your back. Once you're down, draw your knees into your chest and take a little rock from side to side. Your knees could be together, they could be wide, it doesn't really matter. Just massaging out the spine and the pelvis here. All right, let's move into a twist. So bring your right arm out to the side. You might shift your hip right a little bit to start with. And then as you exhale, lower your knees to the left. As gentle or as deep of a twist as you need. So the knees could be stacked. The legs could be crossed. You could take a single leg twist. Go wherever you need to go. And you could always bring a block or a pillow underneath your knees or between them to give yourself a little bit more support here. And maybe you look along the right arm just to finish off the spiral in the neck. Last breath here. And then slowly unwind, come back to center, reset your pelvis and your spine. And then take your left arm out to the side. Maybe shift the hips left. And then exhale, lower the knees to the right. Again, you can take any variation that you would like to, and it doesn't need to be the same variation that you take from one side to the other. Prop as needed underneath your body. And then maybe you look along the left arm just to finish off that spiral. I think sometimes we forget that our necks are part of our spine. We sort of, even the nomenclature, right? It's a different name, it's a different word. It's not spine, it's neck. But it's all connected. Last couple breaths here. All right, on your inhale, return to center. Reset your pelvis and your spine. And then draw your knees back toward you. This time take them wide out toward your shoulders or armpits. You could stay here, you could be still, you could rock a little bit from side to side. Or maybe you deepen it by going into happy baby. You could kick the feet to the sky. You might grab the backs, the thighs, or somewhere along the legs, the ankles, or the feet. It's a really great release for the lumbar spine, or at least I feel like it is. It really helps me neutralize my spine again. And as always, if there's anything else you feel like you need before your rest, please feel free to go there. Posture, meditation. Otherwise, start to think about where you would like to go for your rest. Whether it's flat on your back, legs bent or straight for Shavasana. You might rest on your side or in child's pose or a seated meditation. And there's certainly no rush to get there. But once you have found your pose of rest, for 3 breaths, inhale through your nose and exhale, sigh your breath away. Couple more. And then let go of your breath control. Return to your natural breath. And let go of any last muscle gripping or tension, particularly in the neck or the jaw. And stay here longer if you can, 5, 10, 30 minutes. Thank you so much for joining me today. Namaste.